We're born to move. We're nomadic by nature. Evolution programmed us to wander. What we have to do is ponder our physiology. We have a upright, long-striding economy of motion, so we can travel for long distances burning minimal energy. We have an uncommon predominance of slow twitch muscle fibres compared to other primates, favouring endurance over speed. Evolution gave us these huge glutes and an articulating mechanical pelvis, unique amongst primates, to stabilise us as we walk and run. We developed sweaty, hairless skin to keep us cool, likely so we could persistence hunt animals to exhaustion on the African savannah. We can out-distance run even horses with enough training. It's also quite probable our intelligence developed to mind map the routes of long persistence hunts and foraging trips so we could navigate those miles back to camp. All this explains why we consider travel to be recreation. The desire to experience the novelty of a change in landscape is deep, deep in our DNA. But most of us only spend a couple of weeks a year travelling, if we exclude commuting and such like. We spend less than 5% of our lives actually doing what we're supposed to do. Is it cruel that we deny ourselves what we're supposed to be? If we did to animals what we do to ourselves, cramming ourselves into factories and offices to stare at screens for a third of our daily lives, wage slaving for somebody else, and then sequestered in individual housing units for the rest of it, Peter would have a conniption fit. We're social, communal animals. We're not supposed to be separated from the rest of our tribe. We don't do what we're made to do. Like a car that's seldom driven. It rusts away, it ceases to be a car. There's an old saying I heard in Texas, and I'm not sure I've got the meaning right, but ambiguity tends to be the key with maxims anyway. That dog don't hunt. In our daily lives, most of us are heavily insulated from reality, sacrificing by sheer generational habit worthwhile natural experiences for the apocryphal security of infrastructure. But we didn't evolve to be mindless cogs in a corporate machine. We evolved to actively pioneer, to explore, adapt and overcome. And it's probably why even the most hesitant homebody yearns for at least a modicum of adventure. But what we usually refer to as travelling isn't really. If you think about it, how much of a culture or a wilderness do we really experience rushing around in planes, trains and automobiles and staying in resorts and hotels? Of course, it would be a little naive of me to think roaming the world on a bicycle could possibly replicate the stresses and strains, or lack thereof, of our nomadic ancestors. But the daily quests into the unknown for food, water and a place to sleep are certainly a lot more in tune with our primary genetic motivators than commuting to cubicles to electronically shuffle virtual paper. The novelty is built in, so I don't have to tack on artificial pastimes like golf or theme parks or video games to relieve the stress such sedation accumulates. And what do we travel for? Surely the personal growth that comes from broadening one's perspective. Experiencing other cultures through the window of a hurtling vehicle or cocooned in a lavish resort is never going to reveal the heart of a place, and therefore never really provides that accompanying personal improvement for which we're striving. I strongly suspect those who travel so softly don't do it to intellectually and emotionally experience diversity. They do it for pleasant surroundings and a change of scenery and a chance to swagger in front of their friends when they get back home. Enlightenment comes much more readily, I'm sure, with empathy, understanding and appreciation than a bowl of potpourri and a pillow mint. We're faking the path to a broader perspective, building a straw house on a swamp, if you will. Consider, I don't know, 10 people marooned on an island. 5 are builders and foragers, the other 5 are accountants and lawyers, health and safety officers. Now there's an industry that didn't exist a few decades ago. Some might say it's a clumsy attempt to prevent nature from thinning the herd. Anyway, let's call this second group admin for convenience. So we have builders / foragers and admin on this island. Who do you think is the more valuable group? We have to imagine all sorts of fanciful addendums and special criteria before admin even gets a look in. Now extrapolate to the population of this rock we're on, flying through space. Why is this suddenly different? I've yet to see a single decent argument supporting non-scalability. See, to me, our entire social hierarchy seems to be upside down and getting more pronounced as social media comparisons lopside professional expectations. Everybody's an entrepreneur on Instagram. No one aspires to be a bricklayer anymore. We need a complete overhaul of the system. We're using a representative political infrastructure designed when information moved at the speed of a horse. Now it moves at the speed of light. We no longer need to send people from our local community to represent our interests in some distant hall. We can make our feelings known individually and instantaneously. I think the establishment maintains its creaking status quo because it benefits them, and the war against revolution with perfunctory tossing of democratic crumbs. But it works, I hear you cry. I humbly suggest a system that promises a binary choice between the fair weather criminality of Hillary Clinton and the willful ignorance of the Mango Mussolini may be a tad broken. We need to start thinking differently, to refuse the cards we're dealt. I'm not playing your game anymore because it is a game. I'm doing what humanity evolved, and the consequence of these last few years is I've started to see the world as it really is, rather than through the coerced, constrictive lens of some sectarian civilization. I've seen outside the prison cell. I've become a much nicer person. I've become far more considerate and charitable. And this isn't a result of finding religion or completing some spiritual quest. It's from discovering what human nature truly is, from actually living with the whimsy of a wild one.